Okay, so for this video, I just want to quickly talk a brief about the knowledge and the knowledge in your lecture somehow related to your module 2. So I hope this video can briefly give you an idea and an inspiration on what you know, what you're doing or not. Hopefully you know what the situation you are doing, like you're doing module 2, right? Okay. So the first concept is the project life cycle, PLC. Project life cycle, you know that a project, right? You do a big project, you separate it into many phases. Okay, from the start to the beginning, in the middle, you have execute project, until the end, you evaluate the project. So the term here, the key term here is project. The key term here is project. So you do one big project, you break it down into phases. The system when you're doing is execute the project plan. Okay, so you take note this one. This is the first concept. And then the key term here is deliverable. Later I'll talk about this. Second concept is the system development life cycle, SDLC. So that you see that on top of this chart, you click in the presentation mode. Because I use the screencast, I think it's difficult for me. You see that PLC have phases, right? You define the goal, you plan the project, and then you execute, you close, and then you evaluate. And then when you execute the project, you are doing your SDLC. SDLC is where you develop your system. That's why it's called system development life cycle. So you are developing the system, and then separate out to 5 phases. You plan, analysis, design, implement, maintenance, support. Okay. Then information technology project methodology. Methodology is like how you're gonna manage and control your IT project. Okay, for the methodology is a very general term, like how you want to carry out every different types of project in different domain. Whether you're in IT, you're in business, you're in other field, the methodology is different. You do maths, the methodology is different, like mathematical modeling. You don't do a maths project, carry out investigation on your final year study, and methodology is different. So in here, the methodology here shows that if you refer this diagram closely, you have the PLC phases on top, and then you have the SDLC phases here. So the SDLC is inside this PLC, you know. So during the execute and control the project, you are developing, you are doing the SDLC phases, and then do you see this word deliverable? So if you refer to this one, deliverable is a tangible and a verified product. What mean tangible means something you produce, you can see. Example is like project plan, design specification, delivery system. Whether it's a document, it's a paper, it's a system, it's something you can see at every single phase, at the every end of your at the end of every single phase. So you see, like PLC phases, conceptualize, initialize project. You first you start the project. When you start the project, what you want to do? You want to identify what this project give value to you and your stakeholder. You do not want to do something that's wasting your time, do something out of nothing and nothing works. So you want to carefully identify first what I want to achieve, what is my goal. Then this project can give me value or not. At the end of these phases, you produce business case, which is in your project module 1, you remember? Now you are entering the developing. After you have said, okay, your goal, your value, what you want to achieve, your MOV, right? Then you carry out and go and do your planning. How you gonna carry out what you plan first, ma? At the end of these phases, what you have is a project charter and a plan. So what is your planning in detail? After you plan, you execute, and then you go through the SDLC, the learning system. At the end of this phase, what must you produce? You must produce the system, right? You must produce the information system, right? After you produce the information system, you move on to the next phase, you close the project. You've done the system already, then how you want to finalize it, you want to write the report and presentation, tell people, okay, what are we doing in this presentation to stakeholders. And then finally, this is a long-term phase, is evaluation, so that you do evaluation, what careless mistake you made, what improvement you can make, project evaluation, and the lesson learned. So what have you learned at the end of this project? It gives you something. So this one is you do for your project module 1. Remember, conceptualize in the project business case. Business case is a document. It's a document for you to identify what value, what you want to do, and then why this project, is it worth it or not. Project charter is another document, a baseline for project plan to provide project governance, right? You do planning, right? When you do planning, you define the infrastructure, you summarize the project plan details, what is the role, who do this and who do what, and then show the project commitments, how long you want to do this, explain the project control mechanism, who is in charge of this issue. If you have large group, you break it down to small group, who is in charge. And then for project scope, this is a very important diagram. It's like, you see, when you after you finish your PLC phases, when you produce the business document, you have defined your MOV, right? So your MOV in turn will define the scope. How big, how small the project specifically is, do what in general and specific. And then from the scope, you break it down into different phases, and then from each different phases, you have different kind of tasks. Tasks is sometimes tasks you have to arrange in sequence. Which task comes first? When you want to develop the system, which one comes first? You design first or you analysis first? The analysis first, right? The sequence is important, right? And then how many resources you want to do? Money, people, how many people, how much money, and then what machinery or IT equipment you need to use. Time estimate, how long you want to do. So when you want to calculate your project schedule and your project budget, need to take in consideration of these three factors. Okay, so who is in charge doing for your project module 2 part 3 is it? So this one is a very important diagram. You need to take note. Okay, this is another concept, project management processes. So scope, means boundary. Scope management plan means that how you manage the scope. Okay, before you want to do your system, you want to develop a system, you want to manage your scope. How big, how small, what is your scope, how you identify. So these are the scope management plan. First, you collect the requirement. You collect requirement and then you produce a requirement document. These are like deliverables, like documents. Then you define the scope. How detailed is the project scope? Then you create WPS, you verify the scope, and then you control the scope. Must control, cannot over budget, under budget. Under budget is okay, cannot over budget. Scope okay, scope is important so you know how big are you do, what you are doing. You do a project, FIT final year project is different from you develop a Pan Borneo highway project, different, right? Project scope definition, this one got two types. I don't know whether it's inside the lecture slide or not. I think it's inside. So project oriented scope and product oriented scope. Project oriented scope means that your scope for your project, what thing you produce for this scope is that within this project oriented scope, what kind of documents such as business case, project charter, project plan, and then the work products. Deliverables are specific deliverables such as current system study, requirement, so means all the documents and all that for your project oriented scope. Documents, requirements, documented design. So this thing is called DDT, deliverable definition table. Is a table where you list down what kind of deliverable. You remember on your second slide, deliverable, what I said, deliverable is a tangible and verified product, means something you can see. After every single phase of your PLC phases, you produce something deliverable. People can see. After you go to project 1, project is divided into phase. People want to see something, business case or something. What are you discussing? Meeting notes, meeting agenda or something? Report, are you producing? Okay. So you produce all the documents, and then each document is some is stated in the project methodology, like user interface. Prototype is defined in the user interface guideline. So this is a prototype and this is a document, but you produce something can be seen, whether it's a document, a prototype, a file, or database. People can see user documentation and training class. And then this DDT is important because it serves as a reference for you to develop your DSC, deliverable structure chart. You see this something similar, initial and conceptualize, project charter, project plan, compared to your second slide. You see something similar? So this DSC is based on your PLC phases, but it's specifically documented like what kind of deliverables were produced for each phases. Okay, initial and consider your business case, your project charter, and then during your execute and control, your SDLC phase, right? So your SDLC you break into 5 phases. So 5 phases, each phases, what kind of deliverables are you producing? at the end of your construction, you must produce a system. After you produce a system, you want to do testing so when people ask you, oh, you do testing already or not? Yeah. So where's the evidence said that you do the testing? So you produce the testing, or you do the report, you say you investigate. So when your boss asks you, hey, I got do. So you need to show the evidence, the document you do. Okay. And then work breakdown structure is that this is where work breakdown structure come in. It is based on your DSC. Work breakdown structure is in detail, is like what is the steps you need to carry out to produce your deliverables at the end of each phases. This one is just one, it's just test result report. In project module 2, you need to list down every single phase. Okay. One important thing about this work breakdown structure WBS is the milestone. What is milestone different from deliverable? You see this one milestone? Milestone means must focus on achievement. This thing must be allowed for your stakeholders' formal acceptance before you move on to the next phase. If when you do this thing, you want to list down the task to carry out, right? And then this thing, whether it give the stakeholder to accept, or if the stakeholder do not want to accept this, you cannot call it as an achievement. When you sell house, condominium, something, you do a project, this thing must be accepted by the stakeholder. Stakeholder say no, okay, no, I don't know, means you don't fulfill the requirement. Okay, so it must accept. When it accept means what you do is ngam already. When you do is ngam already, correct already, means it's an achievement. People accept it. If people don't accept it, how you call it achievement, right? In project management sense, okay. And then product-oriented scope is focused on the features and functionality of your system. So here there are two, like use case diagram and DFD. For your project module 2 is use case. Okay, in real life you should have a DFD. You know what the data go here, go there, then only you know the use case. Okay, but for project module 2 only use case. And then for use case, normally you have many stakeholders, not just users. You have admin system or whatever manager who use the system. Many people use the system. Project schedule, this one is for who do the part 3. This one I think something you need to take note but I didn't go through in detail, but you can see from the diagram the task. Like you remember I said the task, which one come first? Task, which one come first? How many resources you need to use, and then how much time you need to use. Okay, project schedule. Last but not least, this one is something I think you should know. You saw the lecture slide, and then lecturer mentioned about PMBOK. PMBOK, what is PMBOK? Project Management Body of Knowledge. So if you work with me doing project for many semesters, you know that I consider many stuff, right? I need to consider this, consider that, consider this, consider that. Which people to choose, which group representative to use, who do this, who do what, how big is scope, how much time you need to allocate, what is the cost, what is the quality. I'm personally emphasize more on the quality. So this PMBOK is separated into 9 areas or 9 aspects. Scope management, how big, how small. You do a highway or you do a monorail LRT train in Kuala Lumpur, so the scope is different. To who, to where, what kind of condition, the scope is different. So this is one aspect. Time management, how much time, what is the deadline and all that. This one is another aspect. And time, how you want to allocate time for the overall, how much is the time, and then for each phases, how much is the time. Cost management, how are you going to calculate the cost, and then how much is the cost. And then for each cost, how much can you cover. Quality management is another aspect. HR management, who to choose, how to choose, which person suitable to do this, do that, which person suitable to become a leader and all that, group representative to handle the report, in charge, who, another aspect. Communication, how, when, what kind of medium of communication, this is another aspect. Risk management, how you're going to evaluate the risk. If anything happen, how you want to handle the risk. Do you have any precaution? How you're going to handle the risk. Insurance, how you're going to handle the risk, another aspect. Procurement, how you're going to search for the resources you need, another aspect. Integration, how you're going to put every single aspect, every single thing you're going to fit together. This is another aspect. Okay, so I believe this all the things you learn is somehow related to this one. That's why you have scope, you have time management, your project schedule, project budget, your project quality is the latest lecture, right? Okay, so this is all from me.